Welcome to day 195 of our Let's Grow Annual Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. And today we're talking about, as we're doing one thing every day to grow, financial growth all this month, financial growth and savings. We talked about expenses, we've talked about debts, we've talked about other topics. We've run through the SOAP framework once. And today we're going to focus on savings. So my first question for you is, do you have money in savings or something in savings right now? Maybe you collect something and use that as your kind of savings account in case of an emergency. Do you have an emergency fund? Do you set aside any of the income that comes into your life in a separate account that you really don't touch? Do you have a 401k plan? Do you have investments? Unless you have an absolute emergency. And guess what? Most emergencies, you don't want to touch that anyway. You want to get creative and resourceful and find other ways, because things like Social Security are not guaranteed. Not sure it's going to be there when we all retire. Probably not, with the way things are going in our country. So there's lots of different types of savings. There's lots of different ways to save. There's lots of people that will help you decide how to save and what to do and how to invest your money. But again, with any other decision, any other choice, you need to be wary and beware. Interest rates just in my lifetime have done the craziest things. My first home, the interest rate was 13.89%. I think my first car, I don't remember what my first car interest was, but my home I do, because it was so ridiculous, the interest on that home. And now we had years of just incredibly low inflation or interest rates, and then now they're back. And I don't even know what they are now, but I know they've gone up. I think my kid's house is 5.6% or something, which is a lot higher than it was when it was 2 and 3%. But interest rates are a double-edged sword. When you're saving, you don't get much money on your money, not much interest. You don't get much interest earned. But when you're buying something, you pay a lot more. You pay less interest, right? So it's one of those topics. I'm obviously got a huge headache today, but it's one of those topics that's very complicated unless you're in the financial sector. And it pays to do your homework, do your research, shop around, just like insurance and anything else. We need to shop those things around so that we're not just paying money unnecessarily for things that we're not getting any service for. So super easy today. We've got Dylan's story and guide 2 at the Let's Grow Annual Challenge private Facebook group page. I put a poll on here, but I have no idea how to launch the poll. And I don't think it works on other platforms anyway. So it was, whenever there's features that I haven't used that I notice, I like to test them out on the weekends because people are busy and they pay less attention to when I screw things up. So I'll have to figure out, how do you launch a poll when you've got it on here? I do have comments activated, so you can always comment live on the videos, or you can comment afterwards whenever you're watching it, and I will get those messages or those comments or those questions. So today, simply ask yourself 2 questions. 1, do you have anything in savings right now? And guess what? If you don't, you don't. If you do, great. But today is the perfect day to start setting something aside. So think about what amount of money you want to have, not that you'd like to have, because we'd all like to have several $1,000,000 in savings and investment accounts for whatever we want, whenever we want. But pick a realistic number that you want to have by the end of the year, especially if you've got nothing right now. Maybe it's only $1,000 or a couple of $1,000s. Take that number, divide it by the number of days or the number of months or weeks, however often you want to put money aside. For a lot of us, it's easier to break it down and say, okay, I have to put $5 a day into my savings account than it is to say the amount weekly or monthly. Not that those are huge numbers, but even if we start with a little bit, it accumulates over time, and we get in the habit of saving. Not saving for a rainy day, because we don't want to use all of our savings on negative things, but saving for big purchases, saving for things that we want. A lot of people have gotten brainwashed into the credit card habit, and I think we talked about that a little. I don't know if we talked about that much yesterday or not, but that is one of the worst kinds of debt. I wasn't feeling great yesterday either, that we can have, because credit cards, the interest on them is so high that if we're using them for something that's consumable that we can't pay off every month, it's pretty easy to dig ourselves a big hole. That's part of why we want to have savings. So when things come up and when we want to make choices that are fun experiences or something, we've got the resources to do it, and we don't have to tap into other places or take out debt that costs us more in interest than it ever cost us in the purchase in the first place. again, I could talk about that for days. All right. And then, so divide that up. So are you saving right now? Yes or no? Be super honest with yourself. Either you're putting money in a savings account or you're not. And secondly, pick the number that you want by the end of this year. Let's not make it huge, but let's make, or a long time thing. Let's make it by the end of this year, because that is a specific goal we can set, and then divide it by how much you need to put in savings. And it's up to you. Do you want to put it aside every day? Do you want to put it aside every week? Do you want to put it aside monthly? I'm going to highly recommend, if there is an automatic way to get that taken out of your income before you even see it, for many of us, that is the best way to become a saver, because if we don't see the money, if we don't have the money in our possession, we don't have to be responsible for making the conscious decision of putting it and depositing it in our savings account. And if it goes in there automatically, that is really the easiest, fastest way to save. Anytime we can automate a good habit for ourselves that we don't have to be involved in it, that's usually a good thing, once we make the commitment and the dedication to save. Any questions? Ask. Otherwise, have an absolutely fantastic Saturday in my neck of the woods, whatever day it is for you. And I will be with you tomorrow.